So I just want to apologize in advance for if you all hear the let me back up. No, I'm not going to apologize. First things first, not going to apologize. Second thing, so my dog Oreo is in the front seat, and get down. He's trying to get this leaf that's outside on the windshield. Yeah, it's a whole thing. So me and my road dog are off for a trip, but I wanted to have this conversation to let you know the state of play at this point. So since 2013, for those of you who don't know me, since 2013, I have been practicing law in the state of Maryland. And currently I'm licensed in the state of Maryland in the local courts, in the federal court, and in the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, being a solo practitioner means that primarily all of the work that is done, answering the phones, being the secretary, the bookkeeper, all of the things are done by me for each case, right? Now, there are times that I will, for certain cases, to do certain things, I will hire a paralegal to assist me, or I'll hire the folks that I need to assist me accordingly, right? So during that time, it was a challenge. I mean, it was a challenge, and you guys have heard me talk about this before. And so at some point, I started to really come to an awareness of what was happening, right? So it's wild because you would think, right? Like, and I always tell most people, when you think of someone who is an attorney, generally you think, they have a lot of money, right? And that is true. That is true, right? However, what that means is relative, right? A lot of money according to what? To whose statistics, right? When I say that because I received what was titled to be, I guess, a bill from this entity that says they operate as the loan servicer for the federal student loans. Now, obviously, I told you I went to law school, so I did that for 3 years. Shout out to North Carolina Central. Shout out to us, yes. So went to Central for law school, went to grad school in New York, went to undergrad at FAMU. Shout out to my alma mater. Shout out to FAMU. Shout out, fam, goddamn you. Shout out to us. So anyway, yeah. So that's the situation. So obviously, during these times, I didn't have the money. My family didn't have the money to pay for me to go to college. So like a lot of people that I knew, we filled out the FAFSA, got the money to go to school. But at that point, I was living on my own, right? And because I was living on my own, that meant I was living on my own. So I never actually lived on campus and had that. I never actually did that. So I've always lived on my own since I graduated from high school. Now, I know that's not an uncommon, thing at all, but generally speaking, like, you generally have like this cushion. Like for me, like I've worked since I was 14, and so a lot of us share that commonality. A lot of us have that story as our truth. But one of the things that I grew to realize through this whole process was the way that all of these things that we were taught along the way, what it was actually grooming us into and preparing the way forward. So, with that being said, I look at, a document that I received that says this entity wants me to pay more than $250,000 for student loan, for what they call student loan debt. And the issue with that is I'm not sure where they think this is coming from, where this half of, more than, actually it's about Last I checked, it was about 375. Oh yeah, exactly. Shocking, just shocking. About $370,000, right? At one point, they sent me a letter saying that they wanted me to pay, well, I think it was like $9,000 a month or something like that. And I want to be clear to you all. I have had months where money looked like money, you know. I think my highest grossing month, and it is what it is, was maybe like $22,000 was has been my highest grossing month as an attorney. That was many years ago. To be clear, that was many years ago. And even then, it has not been consistently repeated. Do you see what I'm saying? So that hasn't been the pattern. That hasn't been the norm. Do you get what I'm saying? But I think how it looks, actually no, I mean it just is what it is. Regardless of how it looks, it is what it is. So I have not had a situation where I could comfortably, meaning without any harm to myself economically, give these beings almost $10,000 a month for student loans. You understand? At some point along my journey, I had an office and all of this stuff, and I ended up having to close down my physical space and start doing a virtual space. And the reason I did that was because at that point, financially, it wasn't consistent enough to support all of those things in the way that I was trying to expand, right? And so I recognized the fact that I needed the help, and I wanted to make sure that she was well provided for, right? Because I understand that people need to, people have to take care of themselves and their families, and I get that, right? So I wanted to make sure that she was well compensated and had what she needed, right? But at some point, doing that became more than I could support, right? And so from there, I chose to downsize my office and go to a virtual space, and to fire the assistant that I had at the time. Graciously enough, I had a colleague who worked out a situation where he would just bring her on to his law firm. Shout out to you, brethren. You know who you are. I don't know if you want your business in the street like that, but but shout out to you. I appreciate you so much. Please know that. And I did get your message. It's been a whole thing, but we'll talk. So I closed down my practice, and or not the practice, but closed down my office, fired my assistant, got her another situation, whatever, moved on. But in the process of all of that, I had filed for bankruptcy, Chapter 13. We'll get to that. I filed for Chapter 13 bankruptcy, and I did that because that's where things were. You know what I mean? Like I could not. The income was not consistent in in the way that it needed to support all of these things. Now, all along the way, though, I just want you to understand, how this works. So all along the way, though, I have this entity called the Internal Revenue Service, and this entity known as the State of Maryland Comptroller, sending me notices saying that I need to send them money for what they have deemed to be an appropriate amount of, what they consider that should be their cut of whatever it is that, I'm generating with my energy, right? Now, all along the way, though, I'm like, this makes no sense, because I'm having a difficult time supporting all of the things that I actually have to do to ensure that I can actually have a place to live, have water, have food, have a car to drive, have, you know what I mean? And do all of the things. So essentially, my business was running more like a job than an actual business. Do you see what I'm saying? So I was doing all of the things, but still barely getting by. You know what I mean? And you know, like, of course I had my, you know, I would take vacations here and there, like, just, but it was very much like a job. It was not, it did not have what you would generally think of when it comes to the financial success by way of, you know, a monetary reward, right, for a business owner, as we think about them from like social media, whatever we, you know what I mean? And yeah, and so at some point I started really looking at things, but the thing that I found to be very challenging was that trying to do all of these things without the actual ability to expand and to bring on support and to pay them well, or, you know what I mean, to do all of those things, it takes what it takes. It requires what it requires. But one of the things I came to see is the way that these, you know, like the entity as the Comptroller of Maryland and the entity as the Internal Revenue Service, the way that they were coming in an attempt to cripple any growth that I would make, it would cripple that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because if you're barely able to make the ends meet already, right? And then to have someone else come in and say, give me that. Give me that. That makes it very difficult for your friends who are small business owners. That makes it very difficult for them to grow and expand. You know, and I know people, you know, we get online and we see, you know, people doing their thing and whatever, but behind the scenes is what you don't see. You don't see the day-to-day things that go into making the magic happen, or bringing a product to market, right? Or producing something, like writing something. Like, even when I talk to folks about, you know, what it takes to, you know, file an appeal for someone and to write a brief and like all of these things, it is hours upon hours. Do you see what I'm saying? It is research, it is, you know, focus, it is intention, it is understanding that with every word you are crafting reality. It takes intention, and you see what I'm saying? To actually do what the thing requires. And I know, and you know, a lot of times, you know, we are so used to you know, instant gratification and instant gratification and things of the sort. And so with that, sometimes, you know, unless you are familiar with the manufacturing process of things, sometimes we don't really appreciate the value of that in and of itself. Do you know what I mean? And that is something that has so much value that it literally creates the cost, or at least it should, from my perspective, right? All of that should be figured. And when people are artisans, you know, that is definitely factored into what it is that they, you know, how they offer, or, you know, how they honor, I should say, how they honor themselves, right? By putting a price, if you may, on whatever good or service they're bringing to you. And we all have these things in our lives. We all have these ways that we, you know, create a process and do a thing. That is our intellectual property, right? But, you know, we have so much at the fingertips that we don't really always appreciate the artisanship, what is it? the level, we don't necessarily appreciate the level of detail that goes into creation. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, and it is what it is, y'all. It is what it is. But for me, you know, I found that to be very unsettling. because at some point I was having challenges paying my mortgage, because like I said, it is, keeping up with everything. And at one point I noticed that my utility bill was just going up and up and up. And I think I made a post about it, because I was saying, like, listen, like, how is a utility bill $700? How is a utility bill $700? How is that a thing? $700 a month for a utility bill, like all of these things, right? And T-Mobile, I ain't forget about y'all. T-Mobile, I went to what was it called? Like the e-billing, y'all, right? Like the e-billing, where they take out the funds directly from your account. Now, I did that because they offered a savings if you did that. Now, what I started to notice is that even though I had changed nothing on my plan, I started to notice that the billing was very inconsistent. Like, it was not the same amount. And so I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. And because they couldn't really give me a good reason for why that was, I took it off of, the online billing or whatever. So then they were to send me invoices. I didn't actually receive the invoices. They were supposed to send them by, I had them, set up for, sending them by email. Did not receive those. So then when you don't receive the bill, it's not set up for easy pay. Next thing you know, I pick up the phone is off. Now again, I have a business line with several, you know what I mean? Like, so it impacts a lot of different things because I have several different businesses. So they shut off the service, and they say, even if it's off for 5 minutes, right? They say that it is, they have a $20 restoration fee per line, with a maximum of $60. So what that means for those of us who have more than 3 lines is that you will pay $60 to have your services reconnected, and they consider that to be legitimate. Now and that's the thing. What makes something legitimate? What is it that makes something legitimate? Who gets to determine that? And as someone who is consuming the product, the question is, what is it doing for me? Like, what am I receiving in exchange for this? Right? So what I say it costs you nothing to turn the service off and on. Why are you getting a benefit from the interruption of service? Why are you receiving a benefit for that? And why do you believe that that's justified? And this is the furtherance of debt slavery. You see what I'm saying? So it becomes a whole thing where if you surrender any level of control, or otherwise give away your autonomy, these beings don't know how to stop. They don't know how to stop taking and taking and taking and taking, because it is sheer greed. It is greed. And to believe and to convince people that it's justified when you've done nothing and given them nothing, to come in and say it is justified for me to come in and to take the place that you live, take your ability to obtain another place to live, thereby destabilizing your entire economy. I will destabilize your entire economy if you do not pay me what I say I decided that you owe me for nothing. There is nothing that I can point to say this has been a benefit to me that is definitely worth $150,000 of the equity in my home. To the point and to the extent that I am willing to be homeless in order to receive this benefit from you. What? So I wrote a book about this whole process and this whole story, y'all. Like, it's not even a story. It's just the truth of the reality that I've lived, right? Right. It's just the truth of this reality. But I'm sharing this because I want you all to understand. Like, this was my experience, and I am an attorney, right? And so what I am saying to you is that these are the things, and then what happens is you are made to feel like you should be ashamed for the circumstances, so that you don't speak up and say anything, so that other people don't realize, well, shit, this is happening to a lot of motherfuckers, ain't it? There's a lot of motherfuckers out here, like, just, it's a lot of folks out here that do not have the ability and yet are being forced to provide for other grown adults. And by grown adults, I mean these folks that we say that we have given power to by way of elections, right? But these are the same folks that come in and say, if you do not pay car insurance because you don't have it, I will charge you a penalty, which is what the state of Maryland did. I will penalize you by making you pay $514. Then if you don't pay still, we will make sure that you cannot drive. And if you do, we will then use the criminal justice system, and we use the law to further punish you. Even to the extent of putting you in jail, because remember where we started. We did not have the money to keep up. We could not keep up all of the things that we're trying to take from you and maintain your own internal economy at the same time. And so, essentially, you have beings that are walking around operating as full dependents on the energy of other people, right? Full dependence. And these aren't children. Full dependence on the energy of other people who are also trying to do what they have to do to live their lives and expand and create the life that they're here to create for themselves, right? Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of us are here to do things that actually benefit the collective of humanity. So one of the other things that in addition to practicing law, I started to see, specifically with the family law cases I was taking, I started to see patterns. And that is what drove me to create, to kind of branch off and to introduce myself as the relationship oracle. Because I've learned several things along the way about relationships by way of not only helping people who are trying to navigate co-parenting and stuff like that, but also people who were once in love with each other, and now some can't even be in the same room with each other, can't hear the sound of the voice of the other, right? And so, my website for the Relationship Oracle is thetishahillman.com. So it's right, TISHAHILLMAN.com. So you can go there. So I help folks to navigate relationships in all manner of ways, because truthfully, the first relationship you have is to yourself, right? So, I do a lot with self-love and self-care and things like that, because from there, we form relationships with others, but we have to, we have to have a healthy tree, right? In order to grow this healthy fruit, right? The fruit from the tree. And so that tree is us. And so I go by the Relationship Oracle, and I help folks to navigate these spaces. So, if you have, anything that you need assistance with along that line, you want to better the relationships that you have with yourself, with others, let me know. And my other company is Conscious Creations. So I started Conscious Creations in 2020. And, you know, the story of how Conscious Creations came to be is on the Conscious Creations website. But long story short, I had dealt with chronic back pain. And that's a whole, like, when I tell you it gets deep, it gets deep. So I dealt with chronic back pain, which was, you know, I came to later realize was a root chakra stability issue, right? Because of all of the energy that was being extracted, right? Yeah. So anyway, so yeah, I started Conscious Creations because I knew that there was an alternative to, you know, taking medications and, you know, basically just being on pain medications all the time, which was a lot. You know, it was a lot for my body over time. And so I had to let that go. And so once I did, I started seeing just the clarity, the mental clarity come back. I started to see the focus come back, right? But again, it all started from pain. It all started from a fall that I had. It all started, that was the root cause. You see what I'm saying? And so part of the journey of Conscious Creations was, in fact, learning all of those things, learning about how that particular incident, that experience really impacted and shaped my life. You know what I mean? And so then to have to go back and to heal that, to literally, you know, avoid back taxes by healing the trauma in my spine. You understand? And so I actually have a root chakra oil that is available on the consciouscreations.live website, where it's made with all sorts of essential oils, and jojoba oil as the carrier oil, to really root and ground into your energy the root of being, getting to the root cause of what is actually you know, causing you to be out of balance or feeling unstable or insecure, or, do you know what I mean? Feeling like you cannot support the life that you are building. You cannot, like, if you feel like you can't sustain the life that you are actually working toward, the life that you're building, right? It helps you to truly get to the root cause of these things so that you can heal that and move forward. And so from that, y'all, I wrote a book that is called the Chapter 13 Plan. And this plan it's a full circle moment of me explaining and really unveiling for you all the process, right? The process that it took to get from where I was, you know, as a solo entrepreneur, working primarily by myself, doing all of the things, you know, and going through all of the things pretty much, you know, by myself, because I lived by myself, right? I lived alone. And, you know, for the most part, like, I've had my dogs and, you know, my dogs and my dogs. So, I can't help it, y'all. But anyway, so yeah, so that's been the journey. But it's been this journey of uncovering all of these things within myself. The more I become aware of these things, the more I see, the more I know, the more I express. Do you see what I'm saying? And we all see it, we all know it. But the truth of the matter is, folks, it's like and it's deep, but it really is like being molested and being told to be quiet or you will be punished for being molested, because you've been violated in some sort of way. And rather than address the violation, you have to simply keep quiet and don't tell anyone else, because, you know, the perpetrator will get in trouble, right? Yeah, I know. So, yeah, it's wild. It's wild. But when you really think about what it is that you have actually received, process that. Because for me, what it looks like is, because I have a house, and I also, like I told you, I started Conscious Creations, and so in starting Conscious Creations, so y'all hear Oreo seatbelt going off. He's a big boy. But I started Conscious Creations, and right before I started Conscious Creations in like 2019, that's when I started growing my own food. So I've grown like cucumbers. Cucumbers will take over your yard, y'all. But I've grown cucumbers. I'm now growing tomatoes, kale. My cabbage is growing. My celery is growing. It's the end of the season for figs. So if y'all want to order some fig leaf tea, that is excellent. Not only for the immune system, but it's good for the reproductive system, and it's good to bring harmony and balance back to the body. So that is, so that's available on the Conscious Creations website. So that'll help get you right, or get you in balance. Let me say it that way. And that deals a lot with that's going to help you with the Taurus and Scorpio energy. So wherever you have Taurus and Scorpio placements in your chart, that's going to help to bring balance to that space, right? So I go into all of this stuff. I know y'all, I'm all over the place, because me and Oreo just decided to take a drive and just have this conversation and do what we do. But yeah, so when you think about what you actually receive for all of the money that you give, for all of the money that you pay, for all of the money, what is it that you're actually receiving? That's just something to really think about, right? Because to say that it is justified, that if not Jeff Bezos, if Tisha Hillman, right? Tisha Hillman, born in Belglade, Florida, right? Little black girl, went to FAMU, went to John Jay for grad school, went to law school, has been, a solo entrepreneur, since 2013, out here grinding, hustling, doing her thing. If she does not pay us what we say, which would equate to the full amount of equity in her home, we will ensure and do all that we can to ensure that she is homeless. She does not deserve a home if she can't give us money. You should be homeless if you can't pay me. Because when I did not pay, because of everything I just told y'all, right? But even still, when I did not pay, is the justification go live on the street? Because I want to be clear. The situation was set up, the whole system was set up where your house is supposed to be the greatest investment, right? And so if you pour all of this into the greatest investment and then have random motherfuckers coming in and saying, you know what, just give me all of that. Now all you have is a house that if you can't pay for that, we will make sure that the bank comes and takes that from you, because you're going to pay us one way or another. But you will not live comfortably unless you pay us. Because you got to understand, when you receive a notification from an attorney's office that says within 45 days we expect to have ownership of your property, so you should go ahead and move out now. And if you would like to be considered for renting the property, then what you can do is you can sign what is called a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and you can sign over the deed to the house over to us, and we will consider whether or not we would accept you as a Section 8 tenant in the house that you live in. But either way, if you attempt to sell the property, we have used what we consider to be the law to say that we have superior claim of right to all other parties. Anyone else that has an interest, or so they believe, in this property and the proceeds thereof, or any interest in this property, we hold a security interest, right? Now, what they don't tell you is that, well, they don't tell you a lot of things, but one of the things they don't say is that what that also means is that even if we have a security interest, and because we have a security interest, we require that you pay for homeowners insurance. If something happens to said security, in that situation, we have no interest in helping you pay for it. Then you contact the insurance company, and the insurance company, their goal is not to pay you, right? Understand that. Their goal is to collect your money every month, or however often you pay, to pay their CEOs millions of dollars a year, and to pay out as little as possible. So when you have something that happens in your property, it is easy for them to say, oh, this is a pre-existing condition. Oh, of course it's a pre-existing condition, because the house was here before the house was here. Like, it is what it is. Before you brought your bitch ass here, this condition existed. Yes, that is true. See what I'm saying? So that little thing of the language right there, that then gives them from their perspective, the authority to then deny the claim. You understand? You can't claim that it was a pre-existing condition in that situation. So now you have to pay the bill and continue to pay the insurance. And if you don't, then someone can come and put a lien on your property, causing back taxes, back issues, throwing off your root chakra, having you thinking that you ain't the motherfucking bag and that you ain't secure. Whole time. So I decided I'm gonna go to Dunkin' Donuts, y'all, and get myself an iced coffee, because I do like it. But there's one Dunkin' Donuts where I went there and I can't. So I don't even want to tell you what the image is. But anyway, it's the guy that came to the window last time I ordered my iced coffee at this other location. He had a yuck mouth, and I couldn't. So now we have to find another Dunkin' Donuts to go to get my iced coffee on. But I'm really glad to be able to get this off my chest and to have this conversation. And I'm excited about you all reading the book and really hearing more and seeing exactly what I'm telling you, because in the book what I'm including is the documents from the court cases and all that stuff. To the extent that I still have it, because some of that stuff, y'all, was burned in effigy. But for what I still have, I will share that with you all, because I really want you to get insight into how all of these things work from a legal lens. Do you see what I'm saying? And how legally folks will literally go to court to find creative ways to make sure that you are homeless and penniless, and that you never have anything to pass on to your children, let alone hire somebody or build a family. Like, if you was thinking about expanding, If you was even thinking about expanding, here are all of the ways that we have set up legally to fuck with you. Even though we can't fuck with you. Shit is crazy. Right? Shit is crazy. But anyway, so, you know, if you all find yourselves in need of wise counsel, or, you know, just want to hang out with me, and, you know, you enjoy what I do, you see value in what I do, and that is a value to you, boo-boo, then you can go to my website. Let's book some time. TheTishaHillman.com. And listen, I look forward to hanging out with y'all. All right? Until next time, love yourself well. You deserve it.